My guest today was PJ, who's the founder of Judgeme, which is the #1 app on the Shopify App Store. So that's pretty impressive. But what's even more impressive is how he managed to achieve that. So he basically he did all of that without raising any funding, which is great, which is crazy, but also without doing any marketing, which is probably even crazier. And so he talks about how he managed to achieve that, and what he's doing differently than all his competitors. And there are many competitors, several of them raise funding, several of them are much bigger in terms of the headcount than he is, or that his company is. We talk about how he hires, how he set up several teams around the world to handle 24/7 support. We talked about how he thinks about building an exceptional product and an exceptional team. We talk about how to bootstrap and how he, in the very beginning, read the 4 Hour Workweek and basically applied that to his job, which allowed him to then actually start a business. And now he keeps applying those same principles in his business to make everything very streamlined, very optimized, and he's able to keep the team rather small. And even though they offer the cheapest product on the market, they're able to offer the highest salaries to his employees, which is crazy. So there are a lot of really cool things in this episode. I hope you're going to enjoy it. PJ also shares one business idea and some principles in terms of how he thinks about business ideas. So watch until the end if you want to hear some business ideas from him. And if you like this show, please subscribe, give us a like, send me a comment, or send me a DM on Twitter. Twitter is the easiest way to reach me. It means a lot to me, so that I know that we have listeners out there and that you enjoy listening to our podcast. All right, here we go. PJ, welcome to the Founders Lounge.
Thank you for having me, Matis.
For sure. Good. Can't wait to catch up with you. We've known each other for a while. And if I would, so I'll do a quick intro of who you are, and then, correct me if I'll get anything wrong. So
this is very interesting now. Now I want to see what you say after these 3 4 years.
Let's see. So, your main thing is you're the founder and CEO of Judge.me. Or do you say Judgeme or Judge.me?
Yeah.
Judgeme,
one word.
Judgeme. Cool.
Yeah.
Which is the #1 app in the Shopify App Store. Technically #2 right now, but the #1 is a little bit sketchy. So I think we can talk about that.
I fully agree.
So I would consider you as the #1, and I'm going to explain why. I think we can talk about that a little bit. So obviously that in itself is impressive. And you've built the business. It's all completely bootstrapped, so you never took any external funding, which I'm sure that there are a lot of apps on the Shopify App Store that did actually take external funding. So that's interesting. And I think I know your story pretty well, and you've got an interesting story how it all started. And in a way, I feel like you kind of started by the book. If you'd read like 2 or 3 books how to start a business, I think you just followed certain steps really well, and it just worked out really well for you. So those are a few areas that I think I'd like to talk to you about today, but we'll see where else the conversation takes us. Do you think that's a fair introduction?
Yeah, sure. It's very to the point. I was expecting worse examples, like, oh, that one night we were drunk together, you were like, this is all good for me.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if the conversation takes us there as well. We'll see. But yeah, yes. PJ and I we've been through some stories together. That's for sure.
Yeah, we were living together in a co-living during the lockdown, so we were basically forced friends for a couple of months.
That is accurate. That is accurate. Why don't we start at the beginning? So I always like to start a little bit of just, where does your business story start in general? Like, what got you into business?
Well, I started a company called Judgeme twice, but so the second Judgeme started in 2015. On my birthday, 29th birthday, I was like, oh, next year I'm 30, I have to start again with business. So I started coding on my 29th birthday, and that was the Shopify app that you now talk about. My first Judgeme company, the reason I bought the domain name in the first place, that started in 2012, I believe, when I was, 26. And that was about online arbitration. That was about trying to create an efficient small claims court for the internet. That's why it's called Judgeme.
Uh-huh.
And then basically the second company is the same idea, but the opposite side of the coin, where they're rather than trying to fix the one-star disputes, I'm trying to enhance the five-star commerce in a way with product review app. So it depends how you look at it. But so yeah, basically my entire career I've been thinking about this space of reviews or reputation, both sides of it. And this time it's really going somewhere.
Why was that something that you've been thinking about your entire career?
Well, I just found it interesting when I was studying economics in university how, as a market, this is a very inefficient market. Like it's something that's always controlled by the government. At least I thought so. But then, if you look into it, there are laws, there are conventions of the United Nations that allow private entities to operate in the arbitration space and basically manage reputation and reviews and all these kind of things. They're just not very used by a lot of people, only by huge companies investing like hundreds of millions of dollars in some other country that is a bit developing. They will use arbitration. But like if you buy something on like Alibaba as a consumer, you won't have arbitration in place. Or if there is arbitration, it's very one-sided because it's done like for the platform to protect themselves, not to really help you as a consumer. And so I felt like this is a very interesting space to try to make something like real and actually a trust layer you can actually trust and really fix like reputation or even the law in a way for small disputes, because the law works for huge things but not for day to day. And so yeah, that's what I was thinking about as a student. And then the first try of my company was on the arbitration side. I got to number one online arbitration, but it was no money in there because even if you use my arbitration clause, you never have a dispute. If you think about your life, you never go to court for anything. And yeah, I was charging by the case, which was very stupid, rather than by membership. And so now if you charge the companies doing good commerce, it's a much better business because your customers are actually good people. And then you can deal with the one-star reviews as a cost of doing business rather than as the business itself. But it's all about this topic of trying to, how can we create an efficient market for law, or at least for like reviews and reputation, let's say. That is the big obsession.
Okay. And then how exactly did the idea for Judgeme as it is right now, so the Shopify app, come?
So for the second Judgeme, I knew that I wanted to charge monthly to not make the mistake of trying to charge for something that never happens, like with my first Judgeme, which is a case in a court. And so I also knew that the marketing side was my weak point. I love to do products. I'm a product guy. That's how I see myself. And so I wanted a platform or something to help me grow. And then I found Shopify. They seemed to be like winning, which was a bet I made. I was correct, luckily. And so I joined the Shopify App Store as the first avenue of going to market and getting some customers. And also Shopify allowed me to charge monthly with just a PayPal account. So for years, the company was just a PayPal account and some very like shitty like contracts for like IP. That's all we had. And then once I came to London, I had to work a lot on cleaning up everything. But so basically Shopify allowed me to not worry about the marketing and the sales, just make great product, great customer service, and even the payments and everything I didn't have to do. So I didn't have to have an actual corporation, an actual bank account. I just could be like very clean, and tax-wise, I could just operate as a sole trader, which was very, very efficient, and I could just focus on the product. And so, yeah, that was why I joined. And then I picked e-commerce because it's a huge vertical within the online world as well, right? It's where the money is for a lot of things. And so, yeah, it was a good bet, and I'm happy that I made it.
Very cool. So a few very thoughtful points that you had about where you think your next business should be, or like what's the kind of criteria for your next business, and then in the intersection of that, Judgeme happened, and obviously worked really well. And then obviously, so that's really cool. You said that's actually really convenient how to start something right in the beginning with Shopify. When you're just starting, you don't have a company incorporated, you don't want to complicate with all the admin stuff, and that made it so easy. So I remember, so what was actually the story in the beginning? I vaguely remember, I think you told me like years ago, how you actually built the first MVP and like the first few steps, because I think it's quite an interesting story.
Yeah, so after I decided I wanted to be in the Shopify space, I mean, first of all, I decided I want to be in the review space, not the arbitration space, meaning the five-star commerce, not the one-star commerce, right? To make the money on the right side of the coin and then deal with the bad side as a cost of doing business. Um, that was one. Then I decided on Shopify for what I just explained. And then within Shopify, I needed to, of course, compete with those apps. And there I just applied something that a person called Amy Hoy calls Sales Safari. Maybe you heard about this. To
Sales
basically
Safari.
go to all the, I mean, she calls it Sales Safari. And I just
Right.
found a free video of one of her conference where she talks about it. And what you do is you try to read all the
Uh-huh.
reviews of all
Right.
your competitors. And it's very convenient in Shopify because they literally have app reviews below every app. So I just found all the apps doing reviews, which weren't many back then. It was just Shopify themselves had an app that was free. So basically, it took functionality out of their core when they launched the App Store.
Uh-huh.
So they had still an app. And they also had a company called Yotpo, which was the winner at the time, which was the market leader at the time. And they were priced $30 and up, and they had some reviews as well, and they had a lot of traction. And so I read all these reviews and I made notes. And what it came down to is that Yotpo um, didn't wait. They were sending emails to ask for reviews to the customer of the shop, but they weren't giving you for free the snippets for Google. So that if you type your company name in Google or a product name in Google, that you see the review snippets. While Shopify was doing that for free, but wasn't able to send like emails at all because this wasn't developed anymore, this
Uh-huh.
app. And so my starting point was, okay, if I take the two market leaders here, what they don't have in the free plan combined is and the snippets and the emails. And so those were my first two features. So just send emails and do snippets. And that was it. And that was just the free plan. And then we promised if you sign up now, we'll give it to you the app like free forever. We just want the first 200 users. And that's how we got started. And then from there, the feedback was then on what to build next.
So that's one of the things that I meant when I said that you can start it by the book, because that is one of the good ways to identify where there are product opportunities, right? You look at the existing market and you look through the reviews and you identify what are the inefficiencies, the problems that people are complaining about, maybe the features that users are asking for, and then you just build something that's
Yeah.
hyper focused on those either negative reviews or the missing parts, and then you expand from there.
Yeah. And then even the pricing I picked from this research because Yotpo back then was $30 base plus, if I remember correctly, $10 per extra 100 reviews above 300. So it came down to $10 per 100 orders you have in your shop. So it went unlimited. And I said, I'll make my app $15, half price, and I'll stick to $15. So the bigger you get, the more discount I give you because I want you more as a customer. And I was planning of changing the pricing, but it worked so well, we just kept it like this forever.
So
So the reason I'm $15 is because they were 13 back then.
that's, I was actually going to ask you, do you have the confidence that that was going to be enough to be profitable? So it sounds like you wanted to increase the price, but then you realized you don't actually have to. Is that right?
Well, I was thinking of charging by like the actual results, the sales results, but then there was another app called. So it was about a car checkout app. I forgot the name now, but they were charging by percentage of the revenue they brought to the company. But then they changed to fixed pricing, and I emailed back and forth to CEO a few times, like, why did you change? Because I'm planning to do this what you did before. Is it like most of our customers prefer like the fixed pricing and the certainty of the pricing? So we never went fully ahead with it. Also back then, Shopify didn't allow you to charge variable pricing. It was only a fixed price with API, so we were kind of stuck charging a fixed price. But anyway, now it's really what we are as an app. We're low cost, fixed price. We never increase the price. It's what we're known for. And actually now Yotpo has a free, like, as a standard plan, like entry plan, that is $15 because now they're copying us rather than we copying them. So
I guess
anyway, just want to mention
I
this.
guess that's a compliment for you.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, and I think sometimes just being simple, even though of course, I leave huge amounts of money on the table, right? Because I see all the orders of my shops, and together we see about 10% of GMV of Shopify, because we have so many shops in Shopify. So $1 in $10 in Shopify we see happening. We have all the order data, and we could easily invent pricing plans that are like looking at the revenue of the shop and all these other things. And but why? It works. We're profitable. And it's just very hard to compete with something that's almost free.
Okay. Okay, so the MVP. Let's talk about the MVP. I think did you take a coding class or something like a boot camp and you started building it, or was
Yeah.
that?
So yeah, so how that started is in my first Judgeme, I did it in a thing called Startup Chile. Maybe you heard about
Yeah,
this. It's like a program in Chile. They pay people to go to
yeah.
Chile, Santiago, to start a company. So I was a business student. I knew nothing about coding. So I had this idea of arbitration and we're going to make the law efficient and blah, blah, blah. And I applied with that to Startup Chile. I got in. I got $40,000 subsidy there to go there and then spend it on building this thing. And I spent it all on mostly on like just having app
Uh-huh.
developers do it for me, consultancies, like local Rails agencies, which is very annoying because every time you want to change a small thing, even on static page, I had to go ask, can you do it? And it was another half a day and blah, blah, blah. It was on pair programming and all this other stuff. So it was very expensive. And then so yeah, then I decided, okay, I mean, if I want to continue this business after this 6 months, I mean, the money stops. Like, I need to actually learn how to code myself. And then I joined one of the first coding boot camps in Chicago. So after Chile, I went to Chicago for 3 months, where there was something, I think it was called Code Academy or Coding Academy or something. Oh, no, sorry, that was Starter League. Sorry, Starter League. And that was one of the first, and I did it for 3 months. But even that was very basic. You did this Rails tutorial where you made your own Twitter. That was all you did. So I could still barely program after it, but at least had some clue. Um, and then once I closed the first Judgeme, another guy I met in Startup Chile was an Indian guy living in Saigon in Vietnam. Said, okay, why don't you fly to Vietnam with your last money? I will give you a job as a developer. I'll train you some more, which I took. And then within a month, I decided, okay, this is terrible to work for this company. And then I found a Rails agency in Vietnam to work for, and I ended up sticking there. And that's where I found all my first developers also. We can talk about it later.
Got it. Do you remember correctly that you read the 4 Hour Workweek book and you kind of applied some principles from that book? Or is that just how I understood your story?
Yes. So no, no, no. Well, okay. This gonna make me look okay. Now you start to make me look bad a bit because now I'll tell you what really happened. So what, after my first company failed, I want to take a break from entrepreneurship. I mean, I was going broke. I was getting fat. I used to be skinny. I know you know me as a guy who is always 5 kilos overweight, but I used
Okay.
to be skinny until my first company failed. And then it's okay, I need to have a break, but I mean, going to a job and working is also annoying. So then I found this Rails agency, and I was like the first European there. And so they used my profile to sell all the clients, which are all Twitter and all the big American companies. And I was a bit of the front face of the sales effort as a developer. But then we were pair programming, and then basically the other pair programmee with me was doing most of the coding or almost all of the coding. And then I mean, you're in an environment full of developers, so it's pretty easy to play politics there. So I basically found one that had studied in UK, was a rich kid, and he studied in UK as a young kid. So they sent him to some boarding school. He talked perfect English. And so I convinced him when we talked to the client that we use my Skype account, but he was doing most of the chatting as well. So it looked like I was doing it. And so after a while, he was doing the coding and the chatting, and I was just, yeah, not doing much anymore. That was while I was working there. But they were happy with me because the client was happy that they had my profile to show to their investors, because I worked for some fancy management consulting before. I looked good on paper. And I mean, also I was useful because I was always there to help close a sale, you know. And then one of our clients there, this agency didn't make good contracts. So one of these clients wanted to recruit us directly, and they were able to because there was a flaw in the contract. But then I was supposed to be hired as a developer. I was like, okay, I mean, I want to go there because I want to pay double what I make now, but I cannot code because I did a boot camp and I didn't do anything for a year while I was here. I just like was playing ping pong and just playing the game a bit and playing the 4 Hour Workweek thing. And so then I said, okay, I'll come, but I want to be head of marketing. But I don't like marketing,
Yeah.
like I told you, it's my weak point. But it's better than coding because at least I felt like I can somehow get away with this. And so what I did is on day one of the job, I hired an assistant without them knowing. So with my own salary, hired some assistant. I said, look, everything they ask me, I'm going to make one Google document. And if they ask this, you prepare me this, and I'll reply it to you. And then over time, she got better. But then after 2 weeks, I was like, why am I paying this salary myself? So I told my boss, hey, I have an assistant. Is that okay for you? Okay, sure. It's weird, but you can have an assistant. So then, okay, I put it on the payroll of that company. And then, yeah, for a long time, for that year, like everything they asked me, I just had, I mean, I spent, I don't know, I guess a month working hard
Yeah.
making that Google document. And then, yeah, this PA could do everything. And this was a huge company, like built by some like rich kids from America. Like, I mean, they were old, were 40-year-old, but they were all like wealthy, and they were just they were using Oracle from day one in a startup. It was like a very inefficient startup. And so I was like, okay, fine. And they loved me also because I was delivering in their mind. And then there I stayed until my boss quit and wanted to promote me to Singapore to take his job. I was like, no, I want to stay here. I'm happy where I am. Like, this is the perfect level of effort. So anyway, I know this makes me look terrible, but yeah, don't hire me as an employee. That's the essence of the story.
Fascinating. They're like, there's so many, there's so many lessons in that story. I love it. Do you think, because so the 4 Hour Workweek is an interesting book because it's I think it gets a lot of partially it gets a lot of bad reputation specifically for that, but also I think it has so many lessons just on how to do things more efficiently, because as you said, I mean, the company was happy with you, right? You were delivering. You just built a system which didn't require you to work 40 hours a week, right? You kind of automated and systemized everything.
Yes.
So, but do you think that those are also lessons that you apply in your business now, in terms of, delegation and systems?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we're super heavy on semi-automate. You can't automate everything, right? And so the fault you see with developers is they want to either automate it all or they lose interest. And so what I do force people to work on is semi-automating things. So we do epic customer support. And I mean, we do it we have thousands of installs per week, right? So we also have team API access, so we can change any of the code on the teams of all the Shopify stores that we deal, or any other store we deal with. And so we are there 24/7. We have customer support 24/7 around the world. And so they're all technical support. And so the most common tasks we've semi-automated. We went over every single team in Shopify from most popular to least popular, and we tried to automate as much as we could. And where we cannot automate, it's now went down from 5 minutes work to 2 seconds. And so yeah, I did approach the business with the same mentality, like, because my competitors, for example, Yotpo raised $250 million. They have 500 plus people. If you look more on the platform side, we're also becoming a consumer platform now, like a Trustpilot has 900 people. They have also raised hundreds of millions of dollars. They're on stock market. And I'm here with 50 people. Half of them are support people, and $0 raised. And I'm bigger than Trustpilot in active domains. And I'm also bigger than Jotpo in active domains. I mean, they have more revenue because they overcharge for it, but I'll get there eventually.
What are your numbers now? So
yeah,
you mentioned thousands of installs per week or per month, but like in terms of revenue or other metrics that you can share.
Sure. So at the moment, we have 155,000 active merchants using the app, meaning these are live shops that are using Judgeme in reality, which means they have the widgets that we have installed, mostly on our product page to show the product reviews, but also can be any other widget as well. And for most of those, unless they disable it, we send also emails to their customers, to the customer of the shop, to get the reviews. Or it can be SMS, or it can be push, whatever they prefer, but by default, it's email, right? So that already makes us, I believe, the largest review app, but maybe there's somebody bigger that I have no idea about. And then in terms of revenue, because we are so affordable, we're either a free plan, very generous, and $15 a month that you can pay us. Our revenue is $4.7 million per year. So about 18.3% of those 155K people pay us $50 a month. And then from that, we pay a commission to Shopify or to the other platforms that we are on. And the rest we get in net revenue into the business. And for that, we pay our 50 people, and we just reinvest everything. I mean, I do live well, but I'm not taking out $1 million per year also. Like, I just enjoy my life, but it's all about reinvesting. And yeah, because I truly believe in the long run, the App Store, or the apps in general, they will go to zero in pricing. And I want to be that person that does this in this market. Like, if you look at the way I looked at it, like if you again study economics, if you look at the last revolution, like in 1800s, like you have all the big entrepreneurs we know about, they took a big industry and they actually just drove the price down to zero or almost to zero. Like Ford made cars affordable. Rockefeller, they all took their industry and they made it affordable. And if you were active, let's say 100 years ago as an entrepreneur in the car industry, yeah, most of these car startups would be trying to raise the price, making random moves, getting acquired, trying to acquire another company. A lot of activity, but in the long run, the people who are surviving are the ones who've driven down the price to as low as possible and just the best service to the customer, right? And so there's always this Cambrian explosion, they call it in economics, and then in the end, a few survivors. And so I've always tried to ignore whatever SaaS experts say, which is raise the price, go sales driven, blah, blah, blah. I don't do any of these things. And I just look at what can I do to make sure that in 50 years or in 30 years, let's say, at the end of my career, that Judgeme is the last company standing in the review space. And so that's why we invest everything in a customer experience as well as lower pricing and more product.
Got it. Very interesting. You had you had some pretty interesting acquisition offers as well, didn't you? Is that something that we can talk about? Not too much, maybe.
Well, it's impossible that you. Well, I can say that I get spammed by. I mean, everybody wants to buy Shopify apps, especially since the pandemic, because nothing else is growing anymore. And so e-commerce grows, technology grows. You're in Shopify, you're in the intersection. Like, yeah, everybody wants to buy it. Whatever acquisition talks there were under NDA. I can just tell you that I walked away from any of them. So it's not like yeah. So yeah, that's all I can say. I cannot give you names, or I cannot give you. I'm very sorry, the light goes out, but I cannot tell you anything.
That's okay. Yeah, but I guess you were confident, because I know we talked about it a little bit, and you were confident that the space is going to grow and that your business is probably going to grow with it, and so you want to keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you want to say next? You talked a little bit about automation before, or just, optimizing your business. Can we talk a little bit more about that? Because I think that's super, super interesting. And so many businesses over time, they just became so inflated, and, they keep doing things that are either unnecessary or that could be optimized. And I think a lot of us would love to have a small business that makes a lot of money, basically a small team that makes decent revenue and decent profit. So you gave
Absolutely.
one example before in terms of installs and support. And are there any other interesting examples that you could mention? Because I think it's such an interesting topic.
I mean, support is the main one, because you can imagine we're doing technical support, any customization, I mean, within limits that you want us to do about your widgets, but even sometimes fixing a bug that you don't know what it is, we do it for you just as a favor. We do for 150,000 shops. Like, you can imagine it's a lot of work we do. If you would do it by give us access to your backend, we will log in, we will do a Zoom call. Like the way a normal agency works, we would need 500 people to do this, right? And so, yeah, automation really helps to drive it down. Beyond that, I mean, every of our managers are work managers, I call them. They do actually also work. So we are very light on like layers of management. I'm the only person in the company who is managing managers. And I like to not manage, I like to do the least possible. So I basically come in, if I see a problem, if I see an inefficiency. In my ideal world, I don't have to do anything because everything grows. And so, for example, with the pandemic, I was in Croatia for the summer because everything was growing so fast. There was no big problem, and I just could take time off, And so that's what I did then. Because then, if I would work more, I would just create even more work for people. It was only hard to just scale the company, just catching up with all the extra demand from the pandemic and the lockdowns. And so. Yeah, I think just in general, we have this principle. And also, I think we try to hire for people that like just to put in the effort and see the results. The downside of this may be that it's hard for people to take a step back and do big planning. But I can do that, or I can have one person helping with this potentially in the long run. But I think too many of the people I also see applying with me on LinkedIn, or that email me on LinkedIn, hey, I want to be your CFO or something. They always talk about, in my last company, I went from 2 people to 20 people in my team within 12 months. I'm like, this sounds like hell to me. Like, I don't want to pay for 20 people after 12 months. I want somebody who says, in my last company, I had 20 people, I made it 3 people by automating them. That's what I want to hire for a CFO, but that's very hard to find. So I don't know, it's a mentality. And I think if you hire the right people, they will like it, and yeah, but you have to make sure it stays the majority. The moment you have a few of those, I mean, you can call them bozos, you get like a bozo explosion. And it was, who was it who called us like this? And there was a guy like a long time ago that he called it a bozo explosion. If you have too many of these people who just want to hang
Yeah.
around and go to conferences and do nothing really useful, yeah, it becomes majority and it's over. Like it's very hard to then tell the workers keep working hard if everybody else is taking vacation.
Yeah, it's you can quickly, one person can create toxic culture, right? Very quickly. And that's so how do you yeah, go on.
But yeah, if I can interrupt, I'm not saying these people are
Yeah.
toxic. I'm just saying they have a different skill
Yeah.
set or different mentality or worldview. And so we are a product-driven company. And so, yeah, like I also believe a company has one like dominant subculture. You cannot be and a sales and a product company. Like we are clearly a product company in everything we do. We have no paid marketing, no sales. We're just waiting there for the growth and it happens. I know people don't believe this, but like we have no special connection with Shopify. We barely go to these events of Shopify. We should go more. But like, yeah, we just delivered on app and on app experience and keeping the cost down and the support high. That's enough.
It's your example is like a dream for any technical founder. It's crazy because there's a lot of technical founders talk about how they want to build, they want to market, right? Marketing is just a completely different mindset. And to everyone who's a builder by nature, they typically hate marketing. In your case, you actually managed to build a very successful business by primarily focusing just on building. I remember when we talked, you said we don't do any marketing. We're just there on the App Store and we're just building a really good product and we're doing a good job at that. And that's it, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
but then you have to be consequent and understand what you have to pay for getting this model, which is you have to keep the price low because you want to convince people. Basically, my marketing is I have $100 bill, whatever the app is worth, whatever, $100 a month, let's say, and I give it to you for free or for $15 a month. And so you can imagine if you go stand on any corner in any street in London and you give away $300 bills, you don't have to do marketing. People will talk about it and will find out, and by the end of whatever the year, everybody comes to get you $100 for free. And that's how we grew in Shopify. That's how we think about product. We make $100 like value product and we give it away for less than 10% of the price or whatever. And so a lot of these technical people say, oh, I wish I had this organic growth. They also then want to start raising the price every 5 seconds. And so, yeah, and also we do really great customer support. And I think a lot of technical people don't want to do that as well. They want to be even on talking to their customers. We really care about our customers. And a lot of the feedback comes from the customers, like through the support channels. And we have a lot of integrations there as well. So it's not just leave me alone. It's also just
can you talk about these two things a little bit more? So it's easy to say, well, you need to build a really good product. And a lot of people want to do that. And it's also easy to say, well, you need to do really good customer support. But what does that really mean? Or how do you really do that? I noticed, by the way, that so you on the Shopify App Store, I think you probably have the highest number of reviews out of all apps and 5.0 rating, which I can only imagine that it's probably quite rare. I didn't really look through everything, but it's 5.0 always it's hard to achieve, right?
Yeah.
So, clearly you're doing something well there. Yes. So what does that really mean, and how do you accomplish that, and how do you, I suppose, build that culture where that's just that's the standard, I suppose, that you expect and that everyone delivers, right?
Yeah. Okay, first of all, if you want something, I think you have to pay for it. Like, I don't believe in me giving a speech and then finding some roundabout way of motivating people. So what we do is we pay well. I mean, for these countries we're in, like I can talk about where we are based in offices later. We pay a good base salary, actually so high that sometimes it's hard to find people because they don't believe that it's real. And then we also pay a bonus for every app review that we get, but we pay a bonus equal for everybody in the support team. Mm-hmm. So it's a group effort. It's not individual effort. It's a group effort. And we have a culture which I kind of copied from like the Ritz Hotel, where they say like every individual support person can spend almost unlimited or whatever, like without asking, spend money, spend time, effort to fix issues. So if we mess up or whatever, like people will go on a call straight away. Even a 4-star review, we will offer a call We will spend as much time as we have to talk through whatever is the perceived or real issue, and we'll fix it or we'll explain why it's not an issue at all. And so if you just do that, you already get rid of a lot of bad reviews because people suddenly realize, oh, I'm angry not at a screen, but at a real company who really cares. And they actually become sometimes your biggest fans because they can see the humanity behind what you're doing. And so, yeah, we have this culture of, look, if it goes well, you get paid a lot of money. A lot of these support people make more than their base salary in bonuses. They make more than some of our developers sometimes if they're senior support agents. And so, yeah, we also tell them, like, don't worry, like, if you need more people, we'll hire them. We have our metrics, we make it efficient, we automate as much as we can. But within that level of automation we can reach, then we go overboard, also doing manual work if needed. And so I don't mind losing money on these interactions. Like if we lose money on a customer, like most of our customers are free, right? 80% plus of our customers don't pay anything, and we give them the same support. There is no filtering in the back end that we prioritize paying customers. And so we kind of have negative pricing. We lose money on most customers. And so I don't mind that because that's the price I pay to get this organic growth and to have this culture, and I really enjoy it. And so now also on the revenue side, I want to start growing revenue more, not with decreasing the price, but we're working to become our own platform for consumers. And so now we also introduced a bonus for like growth of revenue to the entire team. And so that's how I do it. I just pay for what I want. I want to get 5-star reviews. I pay for it. Like I encourage the culture to focus on it, and also give them the leeway to do whatever they need to do to like really please the customer. And now with revenue items, also like since I introduced it, I announced it like a month ago. You already can see the difference in mentality in the company. Suddenly people.
What did Charlie Munger say? Show me the incentives, and I'll show you the outcome, or something like that, right?
Yep, exactly. And I think a lot of these, I don't know, LinkedIn thought leaders and all this like stuff, it's always trying to avoid just paying people, honestly. Like just pay people and you can.
So this is something that's interesting. We need to talk about that a little bit more. You mentioned that you're paying people really well, above the industry standard in the countries where you are. Well, at the same time, you have the cheapest product in the market, or it is still the cheapest, or is one of the cheapest. You have low prices, and you believe in keeping low prices. How does that work? It sounds like a dream.
Well, you wait for 7 years and you slowly, organically get to 155,000 customers. I mean, that's a lot of people that use your app. You know, I don't think there's many SaaS companies with this amount.
So it came with scale. A lot of that came with scale.
Like you talk to any of my competitors, with scale, and also, I mean, we pay well, but we also operate in developing countries. I mean, we are headquartered in London, but I started a company in Vietnam. And because we have 24/7 support, we need offices all over the world. We also have a support office in Morocco and one in Peru, so in Lima and Casablanca, and then Saigon in Vietnam, where we are having both development as well as support. And then London is product and development and just legal and everything. And so, that works really well because we can afford to pay well, but it's still less than whatever a Silicon Valley engineer wants. Plus now with London as headquarters, we can sponsor them. If they want, they can come to London. So it's even like if you, for example, go to Morocco, most of these technical support people, they're actually qualified developers. I mean, they studied computer science, but all they can find is to work in a call center for some French company because they speak French. But we allow them to do actual technical support where you all day long do CSS, HTML for our customers. They can go above and beyond. If they want to solve a bug, we allow them to because our customers are happy with it. We sometimes solve bugs, not even our own bugs, but just tell the customer. And then the support agent wants to use his skills to learn and to do this. So both are happy, and I get a 5-star review out of it. So I'm also happy to spend the money. And then the best of those, we train further. We hired one of these bootcamp instructors, and we train the best agents. And then if they want, they can come to London and be a developer. And so, it's a great model. And I like being in developing countries, but as a company, I want to be in a developed country as a headquarters. So London plus developing countries works for us.
Can you talk about how did you go about opening different offices? So you mentioned now you got offices in different countries, different continents. And So how did you go about that, and how soon did you actually start opening different offices? I remember, I think you told me at some point that in the very beginning, you'd sometimes wake up in the middle of the night to just address some negative review that you got. From the very beginning, that's how you were keeping a high quality customer support, right? But then when did you decide to expand?
Yes. Yeah, so in the beginning, I probably did, I for sure did customer support way too long myself. And at some point, because
Yeah,
I was looking at
yeah,
Buffer,
the
I think you know
social
the
media
company
scheduling.
buffer.com, right? This app for Twitter. That's why our paid, exactly, but our paid plan is called the Awesome Plan, inspired by Buffer, right? So the price is
Uh-huh.
inspired by being
Uh-huh.
half of Jotpo, and the name is inspired by Buffer. And so I looked at them, and they were also very big on you have to really pay customer support. And I was trying to match
Uh-huh.
their salary benchmarks from day one, and so I waited too long finding some support people because they're paying 5K or whatever or plus per support agent, which I couldn't afford back then. And so I waited too long, and I spent like working day and night. At one point, I got like my eye went completely red, and I went way too late to the eye doctor. They said this is
Oh
crazy.
wow.
If you waited 2 more days, you had surgery. And so okay, now we need to hire people. And so we hired some freelancers, like in Brazil, or just everywhere, freelance, to solve it. But then since then, we decided we still like to have the culture of everybody in the same city as much as possible to have this interaction. Also, if people want to be a developer or whatever, it's easier to send a trainer to one location. So since then, we like aligned on Casablanca and Lima. And then why these specific cities? Like first we set up Lima in Peru, and then I just had a Dutch guy who worked for me. He was the best support agent. He was traveling around the world. He needed some money. He started to do my customer support, like I was an agent. He did by far the best. I said, you can now be the manager. He was the manager. Then he said, okay, now I need an office in South America. You pick where you want to go. It has to be Spanish speaking, so not Brazil. And he said, okay, Mexico is standard choice, but it's a bit boring maybe. I like Peru. It seems like it's growing and it's opportunity. So let's go to Lima. And he went there. He set it up for me. And then with Morocco, it was like, okay, now we need French support. We can either go to France, but that sounds expensive. So why don't we go to Morocco, and for the same money or less, we can have the best people. And so that's why we went to Casablanca. So that's how it ended up being. And so altogether, we have now French support, Spanish support, and English. And of course, we also have one. I mean, here and there, we have one Japanese
Uh-huh.
person, one Italian, one Portuguese. Like
Wow.
we have a lot of
And so I
languages in
suppose
our
in
support
Lima
team
they
now.
do support in Spanish and in English, or just Spanish. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, of course, everybody speaks English also. Yeah.
Yeah.
The base is English, but we also do Spanish support.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then in Morocco, it's French and English.
Okay. Um, Changing the topic a little bit. So one thing that I always liked about you is like you really study something. Like you tend to, I think you get kind of obsessed about a certain subject or certain topic, and you read about it, and you, I don't know, probably like watch videos about it until you understand it really well, and then you apply it in your business. I've seen that several times, from, since we've met. What were there any books or people or, I don't know, courses or something that you would say that had the most significant impact on your career, your business, your life maybe?
Um, well, in terms of inspiring people, like or companies, I've always liked companies that are thinking about self-management or being more efficient, or at least dealing with a scaling issue. Because like I've never understood how a company can need 500 people. Now, I also never thought I would be 50 people. So I'm not saying I'll never be 500 people, but I hope I'll be very thoughtful about being 500 when I'm at 500, right? And so I feel if you scale a company, if you just draw it out, every person you add to the team, the number of interactions
Mm-hmm.
possible between every team member goes up exponentially. So just like if you can lower the size of a company by 10% even, like you just have a
Mm-hmm.
way more efficient company for communication like ability, right? Even if you just pay more to whoever remains, so you still have the same salary spent, you're going to probably do more. And so I think a lot of companies give up on this, or they have the wrong managers who just want to scale. And so I've always liked companies like Buffer. There's also a company in like Brazil called Samco, which is very famous for being self-managing. There's also then some tomato manufacturing plant in California that also is
That's random.
self-managing. So these kind of things I like to read about. Yes, and so I am yeah, and so this is what inspires me on a company level. Now, because I like efficiency, I'm also very inspired by those people who seem to be able to do them with all themselves without any employees. Like I'm not that kind of person, but I really am
Yeah.
inspired by a guy like Peter Levels, for example. I think you know him. He has like Nomad List, makes almost $3 million without any employees. The guy called Gary
Yeah.
something from
Yeah.
BuiltWith also makes a couple million without any employees. So these kind of people, then once I find out they exist and what they do, I do indeed study them. And so yeah, that's now yeah, this is what inspires me. And so if you want to have a book, I would say the book's about Semco. So the guy's called Ricardo Semler. I read it years ago, but it's a very good book. It's about how we took over his father's business
What was
and
the
made it
title? Did you say?
self-managing, and it's grew ever
Oh,
since.
yeah.
And one of them is called so the company is called Semco, and the family is called Semler. So Semler company is Semco, and the son who took over is Semler Ricardo Semler, and he's the one who just fired most of management and made everything self-managing over time. And it's just a company doing like random things like making aircos and stuff, but still, it's a very interesting company for how they organize. And so that's what I would recommend. You read Ricardo Semler's book called, I think one is Maverick, the other one is called 7 Day Work
Okay.
Week,
Interesting.
or whatever, like or
So, yeah.
weekends.
So if
Yeah,
you like
whatever. So
extremes, on one
probably
side you got
seven
the
day
4 hour
weekends,
work week, and
seven
then
day
on
weekends.
the other side you got the 7 day work week.
Well, I would have to look up the name of the book, but the idea is just he talks about what happened in his company when he let people more freedom and he said, look, this is the goal, here's the incentive, and we're going to just try to have the incentives run you
Yeah.
rather than middle management. And I really like that idea. And so that's also what I'm now thinking about the most in my time. Like I'm at this level, we're 50 people. We have to keep scaling because there's so much opportunity that is presented to us. And so we probably need to be 80 people or 100 people at some point in the next couple of years. Uh, and so it's too much to say I can just be the only manager of managers. I need to now build out a real executive team to get me there, a real marketing leader, a real finance leader, a real product leader, you know? But how do I avoid these people that just want to scale the team mindlessly? And so that's what I'm trying to find, like all these people that believe in the same type of companies and these kind of approaches, but are also super effective because if you are going to the buffer world and the Semco world, you also find a lot of people who don't want to win. They just want to have a small agency and just have a lifestyle business. I also want to be the number one in my business. And so it's a hard combination, but yeah, I'm talking to some
It
people
is,
about
by
that
the
and
way.
what
So I
really find.
googled the author in the while you were talking. Is the 7 Day Weekend, the 7 Day Weekend, and Maverick. Yeah. Okay. So I'm
Yeah,
definitely
yes,
adding
exactly.
that
Yeah.
to my reading list. I've heard about
Yes.
Maverick. I have not heard about the 7 Day Weekend, but yeah.
And I think that's the main book. If you read one, read Maverick, and it's all about Semco. You can also just go to YouTube and type Semco, SCMCO. There's many people talking about it. There's even a Semco
Oh wow,
Institute in
really?
Netherlands about people who love this company so much they now study it from Netherlands and they help you
This is so
implement his
fascinating.
principles in your company. And I mean, I could potentially work with them. I could work with them potentially for the next phase of the company, but I think the main thing you need is the right executives that believe in it because you can have an outside consultancy, but you also have
This
to
is
live
fascinating.
it
I don't
day
know
to
how I
day.
never heard about this guy. I thought
So
that I
yeah,
know all the business gurus out there, but this is new. Interesting, cool. So I'll get some studying material to read after this episode. Um, Another topic that I'd like to talk about and I like to think about in my personal life is just habits and personal performance, I suppose, on a day-to-day basis.
yeah.
Do you think that you have any unusual habits, systems, anything that helps you get shit done, basically?
Yeah. Um, well, I think I would call myself ambitiously lazy. So I really try to to work very hard at not being needed anymore in every step of the way. Um, Now, I mean, at the very moment, I'm working very hard because I'm like trying to reorganize the company in a way that can go be above 50 people. Uh, But I always, my goal is not to work super hard for the next 30 years. I want to keep the company for 30 years, unless a really good offer comes along that really fits and doesn't screw over my customers and my employees, and also gives me a nice amount of money that I feel comfortable with. But yes, I think my weird habit is that I spend, compared to most entrepreneurs, a huge amount of time just behind Google and just whatever topic. Or now I found Peter Levels exists, and I'm going to read everything about Peter Levels. Or now I know Semco exists, I'm going to read everything about Semco. And so I don't know. It's hard to quantify this, but over time, you just have all these things ready in your mind, like, oh yeah, this he does it this way, or this is how this company grew without any capital investment, like these kind of things. Yeah, and so I think also, just being more thoughtful, having better strategy. I mean, for example, not caring about what the SaaS conference says, like, because you can go to any SaaS conference and they will say raise the price, be sales driven, and I do the opposite and I'm winning. And so because I'm more inspired by how did Henry Ford do it, not because I want to be the Henry Ford or something, but because look, this is a guy we remember from 200 years ago, industrial revolution. So there's probably for every Henry Ford there's 10 guys with a car company trying to raise the price, going to a conference talking about raising the price. Henry Ford was just sitting at home making the price lower, making his factory more efficient. And so I don't know. I think people do a lot of fluff work, a lot of fake action. They have a PR strategy, or they go to a conference, or they try to do sales or whatever, be part of a business club. And I do none of these things. Like, I just either read stuff, I fix things in my company, or even
I
tweak
love
it.
the
I try
learning
to
strategy that you mentioned. So I think typically the way how I learned in the past was like, I knew that there's a topic that I need to learn more about, and then I would, I don't know, get a book about that, and I'd read that for whatever, a few weeks, as long as it took to read that little by little every day. And then, slowly I would get better. But I was probably learning other things at the same time, and, doing things. And then I noticed, well, you're one of the examples. Then I have a few other friends who would learn in these hyper-focused sessions when they would get obsessed about certain subject for a week or a few weeks. And they would just read everything they possibly could on that topic. And I was like, that's interesting. It didn't feel natural to me, but then I gave it a try a few times, and it's incredible because you just immerse yourself in that subject, and that's the only thing that you think about for those few days or weeks or whatever it is, and you really master it very quickly. But it requires a lot of discipline, or at least for me, because it doesn't come naturally to me to do it like that, because you got life and just shit that you have to deal with anyway. So you need to really take time, schedule time or whatever, deprioritize other things to actually learn, to take time to learn this new thing and spend enough time on that. But I think it's fascinating. I think it's great. I think it works really well. For you, it seems to be just natural. For me, it's a kind of a behavior that I had to implement, that I had to learn. But it's great. I want to do more of that.
Yeah, for me it's natural. I just follow my interest, and it goes where it goes. But it's all. I mean, it's not like I get interested in making pancakes also, right? It's still. I mean, I'm a business geek. I like building a business, right? It fascinates me how to. So it helps, of course.
Okay, so towards the end, one of the questions that we always address on this podcast is business ideas. Still my ideas, as I call the segment. Do you have any ideas that you can share with the audience so somebody can hopefully steal it and implement it and make a lot of money with it?
Yeah. Well, I would first say, as a principle, I would always try to see if you can find something boring to sell rather than something sexy, because there's more money in there. Like, product reviews is very boring as a topic. So if you get excited about something boring, and sell it to people you like, but ideally also people that are not necessarily cool, that you like, that you're a bit weird in like. For example, I really like entrepreneurs. I really like e-commerce owners. Maybe the average, I don't know, cool kid doesn't like e-commerce owners. And so if you sell something boring to unsexy people, something unsexy to unsexy people, you tend to make a lot of money, right? If you try to be, I don't know, fashionable in selling to supermodels, it's going to be hard to make money, because everybody wants to do that. Everybody wants to be around the music stars. I mean, not me, but most people want to be around those people. And so, so do that. And then, to give an example, like so I just bought a sailboat maybe now it's like 6 months ago. I really want to get out of behind from behind the computer in the weekends, and it's nowadays with all everybody's buying RVs and sailboats because they want to travel locally because you couldn't travel anymore internationally last year. Like it's completely crazy to find any maintenance person or any electrician or anything, any tradesperson for boats. And so make an Uber for boat maintenance because people pay a lot of money, like a lot of money. But if I email random companies that I see advertised in all the marinas, they say, oh, wait, at the moment you have to qualify to become a new customer. What's your boat? What's your expected budget? Like you have to sell yourself to even become a customer of these companies. And so if you make an app saying, look, it may cost more, there may be surge pricing, but we guarantee you it will be done well and we will show up when we say we'll show up, you'll make a lot of money. And people spend irrational amounts of money on their boats. So, and it's the unsexy part of something people like to spend money on. So they will gladly pay you to take care of their yacht management. So that's what I would, if you want something, I would do that. But it's going to be very hard to find
Love it.
the actual
I would say
workers for
about
your app.
50% of people who I host on the podcast, the way how they started their business was they actually solved their own problem, and that became a business. So I think that's, in my mind, that's one of the best frameworks how to think about, finding a business idea. Maybe the second best is solving somebody else's problem. If it's a real problem and you know that they will be, you need to validate quickly enough that they're actually willing to pay money for it. But yeah, so this, it's clearly not just an idea, but it's an actual problem that seems like it needs solving. So that's always a good start. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I would also say if you're gonna maybe one last tip, if you're gonna go into business, at least the way I like to build companies, you go into an existing market. Don't try to invent something new. Like that's just way harder than, because when I arrived in reviews, there already were review apps, right?
Yeah.
When I arrived in arbitration in the first Judgeme, there was already arbitration. I just made it more efficient. And so take something that exists that is big, that people need.
Yeah, we talked about that before. It's
That's
incredibly
how I
hard
grow
to
my
create a
companies.
market, right? It takes insane amounts of effort and money often. So it's being the first mover is really, really hard and expensive. And I would say the chances to succeed are probably lower. While if you're the second mover, then you don't need to educate the market. You don't need to change their behavior completely. You just need to offer something that's, I suppose, different or better in some way.
Yes, and keeping prices very low is a great way to be the last mover also. Like people care more about price than they want to admit. So yeah, even in
Yeah,
B2B, like I think it's a
it
big part
seems
why
like
I'm
it.
number one because I have such a low
It
price
seems like it.
in Shopify.
Cool. PJ, is there anything else that we forgot to talk about?
It's cool.
That's all for now.
No, it's fine. You didn't mention any of the awkward stuff we've done in
Well, that's a
lockdown
good
and
teaser now
brief
for the
talks, so that's good.
next episode when we go into the dirty secrets of our private life and us living together during the lockdowns and how that went down.
And too many
That's gonna wait for
cocktails
the next
on
episode.
certain evenings. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming on. Good
All
luck.
right,
This was
cool.
super
Thanks for
fascinating.
this.
I really love
Yeah.
what you're doing. I think it's, I would like more people to know about your story because I think it's really, really cool. So I'll try to spread the word. Talk soon. Thanks for listening until the end. If you listened to this point, I hope you really enjoyed the episode. And if you did, then it means a lot to me if you subscribe, if you like, if you write a review on, you can give us 5 stars on Spotify, you can give us a review and 5 stars on Apple, or if you're watching this on YouTube, give us a like, leave a comment. It means a lot. It means a lot because I can see that we're doing a good job, that you get value out of the content, and it helps others to discover our podcast, and that helps to get more views, and that helps me to bring even more interesting guests and hopefully create even more content. So please support us. That's the only thing that I'm asking for, and that's going to be super helpful and I'll be very grateful for. So thank you.